Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel and welcome back for another book review. Today we are going to be reviewing Homeseeking by Karissa Chen. Karissa really, she did her thing. Not my phone going off, hold on. So anyway, like I was saying, Homeseeking gave everything that it needed, that I thought it was gonna give, that I needed. If you watched my previous book review, I was just coming off of the heels of being in the trenches with the last book that I read. So I wanted something that was a little bit like sweet and light to read. And I'm not gonna say that Homeseeking was completely sweet and light, because a lot of like the themes and the things that were discussed in this book were like not sweet and light at all. But it was still like a really like easy and captivating read, and I got through it like pretty quickly. So basically there are two main characters in the book, and so they're referred to by different versions of their name, but just for the purpose of this video, I'm just going to use like the more like, I guess, like Americanized version of their names. So Howard and Suchi, right? They were childhood sweethearts. So they grew up in the same, they call it like a long tang, just basically means like street or like kind of like community in Shanghai. And like everybody like knew that they would always be together, and they were like meant to be and all this good stuff, and they spent much of like their teenage and childhood years together, right? And so like by the time they were teenagers, they had like made it official, and people were like, okay, they're gonna like get married at some point, this, that, and the third. At this time in China though, there's like a lot of like war stuff going on. So like Japan is like invading, and like they're at war with them, and then once that whole war with Japan ends, then there's like another war where like the nationalists and the communists are fighting. So there's like a lot going on. It's like not the best childhood that you would want to like grow up in and live in. And so Howard, who his names have like developed over time, and I'll get to that when I talk about my likes, but I'm gonna call him Howard for now. Howard makes a decision when he's like a teenager that instead of like having his brother go to the war, because they were like drafting people, his brother like I think already had a child or was expecting a child, and so Howard decided to go to the war in place of his brother, and like didn't tell anyone. Like he just like kind of left. He left a note or whatever. And so from there, like it just, their whole like love story kind of like goes downhill basically, because like going off to a war, like there's so many like unknown elements, right? So their lives just start like kind of like unraveling, and then the book kind of opens up with like them running into each other, Suchi and Howard, in LA later on, like when they're like close to like 80, like their 70s or something. And so I just love that like we get to hear this story about like these like childhood and teenage lovers, and then see like how they ended up like going so far away from each other, but then just so miraculously like ending up in the same grocery or whatever in LA. So like that part of like the like, you know, things just working out and coming back to each other was like the sweet and cutesy part that I wanted to like read and be like, oh, I love this. But of course, like in between, there's just like so much drama and heartbreak, and it's just a lot, which I'm gonna get into now. So without giving away too much, basically Howard goes off to war. He obviously, when you go off to war, you have a lot to deal with. Like you, and this is like back in the day, like the 70s, 80s, like back in the time. So it's not like he has to like write letters and hope that they get to like who he wants to like write his letter to. There's no way to know like, is my family okay? Are my parents okay? There's no way to know like how, because remember, he didn't communicate this with Suchi before he left. Suchi, yeah. He just literally just left a note he used to play the violin. He left his violin and he was just like, I'm sorry, basically. So there's no way to like know like back home, how is it going? Like back home, there's war everywhere and I'm all fighting. So that's a lot to deal with. Suchi, on the other hand, her parents sent her and her sister to a different part of China, hoping that they could be like safe. So even if Howard is sending her letters, she's not getting it because she's not at the place where he thought she was. So it was just like a lot of like, no, like they're trying to like communicate and there's no way that they can. And it's just like, just turmoil. Like Suchi has to, regretfully like move on with her life because she doesn't know like if he's even alive. He has to kind of like regretfully move on with his life. And so like they do, but they never forget about each other. Like even in the book, they kind of like, they ran into each other, I want to say once while they were still like young-ish. And then Howard ran into Suchi's sister like another time. But then by that time, they were both like already married. So it was just like, it doesn't make sense. But like, yeah. So I'm going to go straight to like my dislikes because that list is like way shorter. And then I'll get into like my likes and the themes of the book. And then also a couple quotes that I liked. So after all of that stuff, they ended up meeting each other back when they got to like I said, their 70s or close to 80. And by the end of the book, this might be a little bit of a spoiler, but not really, because I think it's a little bit like open to interpretation. By the end of the book, it's unclear if they're deciding to like be together. Granted, they're like 70 and 80. So like, like, does it even make sense? But like for companionship, like I wanted to definitively hear that they are going to be together for the rest of their lives, how much ever years that might be. And Karissa, she didn't give me that, which I'm just like, after all of this. But yeah, that was a little bit unclear. And then there was also like a closing chapter where they were talking about like Suchi's mother and Howard's mother and them kind of like they were friends, and then the way that they explain it was just like not clear of like what exactly the last days of like Howard's like both of their lives were. And I don't know if it was just like me not fully understanding, but it was just like a little bit unclear of like what's going on here, if that makes sense. And if you've read it, you probably know exactly what I'm talking about. But the ending chapter, I feel like wasn't clear on those 2 points, which didn't take away from the story at all. So let's get into my likes, because I have so many things that I liked about this book. So I love the cover. I love the artwork. It's like so cute and like, I just love this. Oh, this was December's book of the month. So come on, camera. There we go. December book of the month. So this is the cover, and it shows like a ring. This ring was Howard's ring, and then he tried to give it to Suchi, and then he tried to give it to, I think his mother ended up having it. I don't know. It was like, this ring was mentioned a lot in the book. And then there are like 2 different types of trees. So this tree, I'm assuming, is like for the part of the story that's about like Shanghai or China. And then this part is the palm trees that represent LA. So I thought that was really nice. And then like overall, it's just like so sleek, and like I love the colors. So I love the artwork. I didn't understand it until like later on, which is like I feel like the case with most books, but very pretty. I also loved that there were like timelines in the book. So like I said, they bump into each other, and then the story like starts to unfold at different points from different points of view. So like from Howard's point of view when he was a teenager, then from Suchi's point of view when she's a mother, or Suchi's point of view in like the present time when she's like almost 80. So it goes like all the way around, but I don't think you need to like keep track necessarily of like the dates, because once you start reading the chapter, like it'll tell you like who's it about and what's the like time period. So like right here you could see how it says like the date and where they are. And it's like that through the whole thing. I love the different point of views, obviously. I loved learning a little bit of history about like China and what exactly was going on in that time. I feel like I definitely needed to do a bit more research because I was just like, wait, who's in the wrong here? Why are we at war? But you still do learn a lot of like some of the history of the wars and the stuff and the parties that were going against each other. You get a little bit. And I love when you can like read a book but also learn something. So that was great. Like I learned that like people were like forced to enlist in the army when the nationalists and the communist party were warring against each other, right? So they forced people to enlist, and then because those people were forced to enlist, when they were like in the army, they didn't trust them because they were like, you didn't even want to actually enlist. So we're not going to trust you to like move up through the ranks. We're not going to like take care of you as much as we would take care of like someone who willfully was like patriotic and joined. And I was just like, that's crazy. But anyway, some of the chapters are a bit long on the longer side, but like within a chapter, they're like breaks. So let me see if I can find one. Like if a chapter's like 10 pages long, there are like these little squigglies. Hopefully you could see some. Like there's one here and one here. So you don't have to like, kill yourself to like push through and read the chapter. You can like take appropriate breaks. And one other thing I definitely loved. So like I mentioned a little while ago, there are different versions of the way that they say the main characters' names. So like at some point, Howard is referred to as like Highwen, and I'm probably just saying that in like a terrible accent, or like Suchi is referred to as Suji or something like that. And throughout the book, I think there was a note. Yeah, I think there might have been a note at the beginning where it said like, just for the purpose of this book, I'm going to, at the beginning, it says a note on language. And she says, just the purpose of like translation, it might be hard. So she was just honoring like the different ways that people use different names in like the like Chinese and Taiwanese like culture. And so I thought that was great. Like it's not like you're confused. The names are somewhat similar and like who they're talking about anyway. But another thing that I really, really loved is that throughout the book, there are like certain things that like are mentioned, or like there'll be like specific like Chinese or like Mandarin like characters, and you're just like, whoa, what does that mean? And then at the back of the book, there was like this like note section. And if there was anything that was like unclear, it would like explain it to you, like sort of like a glossary type of thing. And I love that. Like I've read books before where like it's just like a different language, or it's like camera, here I am. It's like a different language, or it's a character, and it's just like, okay, are we just supposed to like interpret this on our own? I love when books give you like, this is what it means, so you can get a full understanding of the book. And that was a mouthful, but those are my likes. I had way more than I had dislikes, of course, because like I said, the book was cute, the book was great. So the themes, love, of course, loss in many different ways, losing friends, losing family, losing like the culture and the place that you grew up in, losing like your dreams and your goals that you had for your life because of the war and because of just like your life being so altered. You get like a little bit of history, like I said, while also getting a story. There's a lot of like a theme of like regret and like, should I have made this decision? Should I have not made that decision? And yeah, just the general things that you would think of in a story where someone goes away to war and they have to live with the repercussions of that for their life and for the lives of those that loved them and that were around them. Okay, and let's get to these quotes that I loved. So I picked out two that I thought were really, really good. It says, like much in this world, what was beauty and what was torment depended upon the context. And that I just thought that that was like such a good quote, because what might be beauty to someone might actually be torment to another. It all just depends on context and vice versa. So that was really good. And then the other one I really liked, which was closer to the end, was, and I broke up a little piece of it, but like the overall message I really liked. Suchi knew that home wasn't a place. It was moments that could be pinned down. Let me start over. Suchi knew that home wasn't a place. It wasn't moments that could be pinned down. It was people. People who knew you, saw you, and loved you. And that's just like such a chef's kiss quote. So yeah, mouthful, I know. Some spoilers, but overall the book has so much more that like I didn't even mention. So this is like a minor spoiler review. But overall, I'm giving Homeseeking 4 stars because it was such a good read. I didn't give it 5 just because of like that like bit of like an unclear ending. But let me know. It's been a few months. Well, it's so December, January, February, March, April, May. 5 months. It's been 5 months, so I think quite a few people may have already read it. Let me know what you think about Homeseeking, if you agree with my review, if there's any parts that you like really love that I forgot to mention, or some things that you may not have liked. Let me know down in the comments. I will definitely be in there replying. And yeah, don't forget to like this video. Share it with someone that you know loves reading or is trying to get back into reading. And thank you guys always for your support, and I will see you in the next video. Bye. Bye.